Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a moment to say a proper hello again to everyone listening and watching. I'm Jason, host of the Curious Goldfish podcast, a music podcast about more than music. I want to say thank you for everyone who has listened, watched, and shared. Your support is appreciated so much. But I need to apologize to my audio only listeners. I've been cranking out video episodes for YouTube so much in 2025 that I've neglected to do proper introductions for all of these conversations. But starting now, new episodes will be back in your audio feed, and I'll also be uploading the backlog of interviews so you won't miss a single thing. Moving forward, all video interviews will be available to watch on both YouTube and Spotify. So if you haven't already, please hit subscribe to both, and please tell your friends and family, especially those who enjoy learning about new music and the stories behind the songs. Thanks so much for sticking with me. I'm really excited about all the great conversations on the horizon.
I think that's the thing, is that it's still just so taboo for a woman to be. And maybe it's also because, I'm not somebody who, I'm not trying to push it in everyone's face. I feel like things might be suggestive, but there's still a lot of art in it. I'm just finding where my own boundaries are. I'm in my early 40s, and it's like my clap back at the industry for having been told that I would be done by now. That I couldn't. I didn't even really choose to start taking myself seriously as an artist until I was 39,
Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms. And of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. What does it take to write a song with a title like Jesus is My Lover? And why would a musician who jokes about slut energy spend her time leading a songwriting workshop in a prison? What if the answer to both those questions is a deeply personal journey of trauma, faith, and a refusal to be silenced? In this episode, I speak with Caitlin Cannon, who's not afraid to tackle complex and often uncomfortable topics in her music. Caitlin shares the deeply personal stories behind her new album, Love Addict, and how her songwriting has become a form of therapy for her and her listeners. We also talk about her work with the Beyond Bars program, where she teaches songwriting to inmates, and how a song about a high school sweetheart turned into a powerful statement about loss and love. Now, from Nashville, Tennessee, here's Caitlin Cannon. Let's dive in. Caitlin, I really appreciate your time. It's so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me on for the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're dialing in during a tour. You're out on the West Coast. How is that going? What are your big takeaways so far?
My biggest takeaway is that I love being on stage, and I miss performing, and it's so important to me, and it's so hard to there's creating work, and then there's releasing work, and I don't know when the performing work happens, but it's that's sort of the hardest part because of if you're solo ninja Jedi like I am and have been, it's hard to do all things, and then booking your tours, which requires really 6 to 8 months, if not more, of dedicated follow-ups and focused and targeted emailing, nurturing relationships. I have OG ADHD AF.
Oh gosh.
So I don't get dopamine rewards if I do things in advance.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, it's going pretty well. It's a little bit on the seat of your pants. And then I look at my friends who are so, have it so together, with their tour schedules. And I'm on the road with Jack McKeon, and last night we realized, like, I was coming up to Santa Barbara to write today, and he didn't have anywhere to stay in LA. But I was on the phone with Emily Scott Robinson, who's like a dear friend, and she and I are doing some touring together in July. And I told her that, and she was just like, I'm booking him a hotel room right now. Like, I have the points, I was just like, somehow we are taken care of, if it weren't for people being like truly kind angels, we would definitely be, this is how people get homeless out here.
No, I can understand that. I have a lot to ask you about. What was interesting to me in doing the research was your whole stand-up thing. But I have to ask, you were on the Kill Tony show, and you did your bit, and he's like, you're really bringing slut energy to this thing right now.
I'm so glad you said that.
And I guess my question is, what energy are you bringing to this podcast, the Curious Goldfish podcast tonight from Santa Barbara? Is it the slut energy, or is it something else?
That is so funny. That's the first time anybody has quote, I don't know. It's so funny. Like in the Americana scene, like I don't talk about the Kill Tony thing that much because people are pretty uncomfortable about like sex comedy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was like I went to study theater in New York, and Amy Schumer was at the school that I was at, and she was sort of like revolutionizing that whole thing. And it was just always, I don't know, maybe the way I think it's just another way that this is just how I deal with trauma. Like I just make jokes about things. It's kind of annoying to my therapists. And so I do that in the songs also. Like even if the song is, if you can't tell that there's a joke in it, there probably is one, So I'm not sure what your question was, but when he said I was bringing real slut energies, I love that question because I think the more sort of pushback I get from people being uncomfortable about that, the more I kind of want to lean into it. And then the more I want to validate all the work I do, that people can't, they have to keep it compartmentalized. They can't figure out like, oh, well, why would like a sexually liberated or a sex positive person or a sex comic go into prison, and work with a bunch of men. When I go into the prisons, they call me non-binary Caitlin. That's their nickname for me because I'm not bringing my slut energy into there. And we're more than just one thing. Right. And that's funny because like, if hearing you say that, like, are you bringing that energy to this podcast? It's like, sure. Like, what do you want to talk about? But I just I don't see it as as like a negative thing, I guess. I mean, the word certainly has negative connotation, but the way that I might just see it as a little more of a positive thing, like something we should be allowed to be if we choose.
I mean, I don't know much, but my take on that and any kind of criticism or any kind of judgment that you might feel from people in whatever genre or whatever industry is, I think they're the ones that are probably the real freaks, but no one knows about it, like they're the ones that are sort of putting this, whatever, goody two shoes, blah, blah, perception out there, brand out there. And,
let me tell you, I am boring in the sack. Let's just call it what it is. No, like that's true. Those are the ones you have to worry about. Like the more judgmental and the more closeted. It's like, and that's when the whips and chains are really coming out.
I do think like in Americana, a lot of people did grow up in the church and they still go to church. They still might believe, but they, again, this is just from a few conversations that I've had. And then my own experience is there's a lot of trauma from that. And, but I think still people kind of hold on to it and some things might cross the line in their mind, again, making jokes about certain things or whatever, or having this whole bit. And, it's just interesting how people, they want to cling on to something for whatever, for show or for tradition or to honor their parents or whatever. But again, behind the scenes, they're the ones that are cussing and drinking and doing drugs and having sex with everybody and multiple people and, the whole thing. So I just think it's just interesting.
Yeah, because for me, like I work all that out in my songs.
Yeah. Right.
I work it all out in my art. It is trauma. I'm working things out. That's what my songs are. I mean, I'm taking,
Right.
things that are really they're too complex for me to process any other way. Like it's something that needs to be processed. It needs attention, and I'm doing it in the way that I do it. And but sometimes it's not always about the traumatic aspects of it. Sometimes it's just about realizing like, oh, it's still not okay for us to be this. Like I just had a lyric come to me the other day. Um, let's see if you get this. He said, "Let's say how many." I said, "Let's not. Maybe you've been with more, but I've been with a lot."
Okay. All right.
Like it's
Mhm.
still not, it's just, I think that's the thing, is that it's still just so taboo for a woman to be. And maybe it's also because, like, I mean, I'm not somebody who I'm not trying to like push it in everyone's face. I'm not like Lola Young, I'm not like, the way that I do it is still um
Yeah.
the way I'm comfortable doing it, like I feel like things might be suggestive, but there's still like a lot of art in it. By the way, I love Lola Young. Like I love what she's doing and how she's doing, but it's because that's
Yeah.
her artistry, and she's authentic in that. Like I'm just finding where my own boundaries are. And a lot of that is dealing with, I'm I'm in my early 40s, and I'm like sort of it's like my clap back at the industry for having been told that I would be done by now. That I couldn't. I mean, I didn't even really choose to start taking myself seriously as an artist until I was. Like 39.
Sure.
So
I
late for
mentioned,
me.
well, before we were recording, you were talking about the 38 Songwriters Festival. And one of the first interviews I ever did was down there with Kelly Willis.
Yeah.
She's like, she's like the queen of country music in Austin. And I don't know how old she is. I'm not going to guess, but I think when I talked to her a year ago, she was in her mid 50s and kind of off of a divorce. And I still think about that conversation because she's like, I'm just getting started, like I'm saying yes to everything and all that. So I think the fact that you're sort of realizing that in your own way in your 40s is awesome because you're
Yeah, and
so
women
young.
in their 40s are hot.
Yeah,
They just
100%.
are. Like I know
Yeah,
so many women in their 40s, and I'm just tired, who are like really, I mean, they're truly hot. I'm talking like physically beautiful, thriving. And I just don't, I mean, a lot of it, this is me against me. It's me against the messaging that I've been given. It's me against what's in the wallpaper. It's me against,
yeah,
um, you know, it's me against me. And like maybe I might be projecting that onto like the masses, but I try not to read. I like when Susan, because Susan set me up on this podcast with you, Susan Hamilton, and she'll go through she'll get the quote polls that I need to read, so
sure.
I try not to read the other things, but I definitely, I mean, I could see on my YouTube channel, when people, sometimes it's bots, but like there's a lot of, this was funny. There was a guy on Facebook. I put out an ad for the Basement release show,
Mhm.
and I had got my realtor for like 3 years ago. My realtor told me that she liked lingerie. So I went down to Lovebound, which is an adult store, and I got a $100 gift card, and I like never gave it to her. It just never, I just still had it. So I was like, oh, this is what I'll do. I'm going to go ahead and offer, I'm going to do a drawing at the show. Anybody who buys a ticket through this link is going to, could win $100 gift cards to Lovebound. And I had some people coming in on Facebook just talking about like what trash I was. And I'm like, isn't that interesting?
Oh my gosh.
Like you got people who are actually making shit. Can I say that? I just got in trouble for saying asshole on the radio.
This isn't, yeah, this isn't the radio, so we're good. Yeah.
I just think you've got people making shit, and then you've got people talking shit about people making shit,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
and I really try to like not. sometimes I can use that because I'm like, oh, that's just fuel. Like I'm just going to lean harder into
Mm.
it. But really, it's me against me. It's me breaking my own boundary of like, well, when does my value have an expiration date? You know?
Mm.
And like sometimes for me, that pendulum just has to swing
Mm.
over the other way. Like I was talking to somebody earlier today about how my first record, the songs on my first record, when I listen to it, they just sound so pretentious to me now. But like
Mm.
if I hadn't let myself be there, go through that part, which I would say like I was really bad at it. Like that's how I feel about the comedy now. Like I can let myself be bad at it because I just know it's such an important part of the process. I think the trick is like not staying there. Don't get stuck on it. Don't get stuck on scrutinizing it. Don't get stuck on what anybody else thinks about it. Just move on. Keep making things and don't stop.
Right. That's
Um,
great.
yeah, but it was funny. My point was that Grimy, uh, because Grimy helped me set up the basement show, and he was the one who actually started like going in on the trolls on the Facebook comments, and I was like, "This is amazing." I just, every
Yeah.
now and then it is fun to get down in the ditch, fight
Well,
with.
the new album's called Love Addict. You're on tour to promote it, and kind of back to what you were just talking about around sort of gender expectations or perceptions of gender and love and sex and all the things. That feels like that's one of the major themes of Love Addict, I guess. Now that you're on tour, are there songs that are resonating more with the audience live, and maybe with you now that you're in this performance stage of the process, that are hitting you differently now as you perform in front of people?
Yeah, I really like doing the sweet ones. I led with, I came out with Love Addict because I was like, I just have to swing the biggest dick I have. Um, and then I followed that up with Jesus is My Lover because I knew Angela Backstrom was going to come on to do radio and she wasn't going to be able to do either of those. So I was
Mm.
like, I'll just get these out of the way. And then she came in with You're Losing Me and promoted that as the single. And it's really like You're Losing Me that I love playing right now. And I wouldn't say I love you. And those songs that, again, I had some sort of response from a reviewer who was like, I don't understand why it's called Love. Why would you title it Love Addict? When not all of the songs are about love addiction per se, even though certainly is about love addiction. But it's really about there are worse things you could be addicted to. And
Mm.
I make this joke that I don't have any songs on the record that are about any real human men. And the real love song I have on that record is Waiting,
Mm.
which isn't about my life at all. And it really, it's about making a larger political statement, but it all comes down to love. I mean, all of the songs are about love, even if it's loving methamphetamine prescriptions.
Sure. Well, you're losing me. I do want to ask you about that, because I was married a long time. I was married 25 years and have three great kids from it. It's great, but got divorced a few years ago. And I remember, just like any relationship, there's a lot of great things, and then it just sort of, you hit the valleys, right? And but I remember feeling a sense of loneliness that was like indescribable,
Mm.
laying in the same bed as her. And like, you have a lyric here that says, cling to your side of the bed, but that kind of thing can be hard to accept. And this whole idea of, because I remember, there was so many nights where we both were just like, would roll over, face the opposite way, and she might as well have been 20,000 miles away, and she was an arm's length. And that so anyway, that one struck me. So it's interesting that you sort of called that one out as sort of the anchor single. I guess, was that from a relationship? Was that from a certain person? What was the context of that?
Yeah, it was. I mean,
I just told
I,
you
al-
my life
I
story there about the.
thank you for going there. That's the whole point. I'm like out here, like waving my underwear around. Like, and we're all talking about that. And it's just nice when other people sort of bring some vulnerability to the conversation. Like, that, especially because it's not the first time that, I've done a lot of feeling very alone inside relationships and not knowing how to build bridges, and then like setting them on fire as I'm trying to build them, you know. And really, that song for me was a roadmap for him. I'm like, just in case you want to know what happened here, that was it. And I have found that when I play that song, I'll play that song. The first time I noticed it was before I put the record out, but I played that song in a room full of couples. And I was shocked at the amount of women who were sitting next to their partners who were just crying, just tears. And, and then just sort of the increased stoicism, is that the word of the, like it made the couples pretty uncomfortable. It was just hitting on that thing. And I don't know if that, I think that distance is inevitable in relationships, because even my friends who are in like relationships that I would say, that's what I want, it must be perfect. Oh, look at the dream they're living. They'll still say they feel alone, but it's like, are you willing to put the work in? And for me, that relationship ended. Usually they end because I'm not usually the one who's not willing to put the work in. At least, I could be wrong, but I think it's that. And I think that typically men, and I do have to qualify that this is a traditional gender roles generalization, but like typically men figure that out after women. I think women will spend a longer time feeling alone in a relationship, and then a man will realize it after she leaves. Right. But I don't know if that was the case for you. I would love to know if it was.
Well, I think, again, in my nearly 4 years of being in singleness, and talking to a bunch of other people, I feel like men tend to put up with loneliness or grief or heartache way longer. They'd rather just accept the reality of like the shitty situation than actually, one, probably put the work in to fix it, or two, leave, because I think, to be honest, if I had to put the number on it, I think there's one person that I met out of, and this is men and women who I was, out meeting just socially, that I had this conversation with. There was like one woman that's one guy that actually left the relationship first, So I don't know. That's my take, is I think men tend to put up with sort of mediocrity or loneliness longer because they don't want to like blow up what they've got, but that's my take.
Yeah. And I also think like a lot of the men that I have dated have been, thinking that there's more on their shoulders to, they're creating stability. And so it's more important that they're focused on that than maybe on like the deep emotional intimacy thing. And, yeah, like partnerships, I think, are more sustainable when there is real partnership there, and so for me, like, I don't know, I could have done that a lot of times, I could have chosen to stay in those relationships a lot of times. And I think that like my songwriting is the way that I'm like, I won't be able to live with the lie anymore once I write the song, because the song is the portal to the truth. Like it does. The whole thing is like distilling the truth. And then, then you gotta just, it's like, it's really hard to stay once you get honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's easier to stay when there's a trip planned.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When there's something to do, or an event an event to look forward to.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we'll break up after Belize. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So what's your relationship status now?
Single? Yeah. I'm married to the music, Jason. I don't know, like I definitely feel like um I'm I'm dating,
Hmm.
but every time I start to get into a dating thing, I quickly realize that I don't really feel like I can afford the distraction.
Mm.
I typically don't choose like viable partners because I think that um, there's a subconscious thing going on there about like I have something that I need to accomplish and I can't afford to be distracted, and I will be distracted if I feel like I'm disappointing you. You know, I will let that derail me.
Yeah,
So instead, I'm just like going to Al-Anon meetings. You know, and I got Love Addict tattooed on my arms so that
I saw
everyone
that. Yeah,
knows
I
there's
saw
no
that.
secret, you know, what
Yeah.
my issues are. And I think that I do think though that I have arrived at a place where I don't, I'm not going to do the thing that isn't the thing,
Mm.
you know, and I think I would rather be, you know, I think I would rather be on my own than to be doing something that isn't the thing. And I've also been single long enough that there's really no, like, you come so far, it's like you can't settle. You know, it's like, what would be the point of settling now?
Right.
You know, and so then, but then I think it becomes about um, like not being too perfectionistic about what that is either, too idealistic. Like it is, you remember that movie, George Clooney, Up in the Air, and Anna Kendrick's in it, and I can't remember the name of that amazing actress, but and she's telling her that like, you know, she used to have these really high standards for the man in her life, and then over time she like, you know, she realizes that you'll settle for a nice smile and a, you know, a cup of coffee, and this, Anna Kendrick is like, this is so depressing, you know,
Right.
but it really is kind of like that. It's just like the things that would really be valuable to me now are not things, you know, that that changes,
Right.
you know.
Well, because I think
So
we were talking about loneliness earlier. I think people above everything else, I think people are scared of growing old by themselves. You know, so I think again, I think they're willing to settle because you're comfortable being single and alone right now. You know, which is great. I think I was going through what I did after the divorce, but yeah, I think people are just scared to death of growing old by themselves. So I think they're willing to kind of settle. You know, but
I'm
I agree. I
terrified.
don't think we should settle.
I'm terrified of being alone
Yeah.
forever. I think about it every day. I think I
Mm.
probably worry that I'll be alone forever every day.
Mm. Yeah.
But like that said, I'd still rather be alone forever and like
Yeah.
get my kicks where I can get them than be like chained to a life of constant boredom, you know, and monotony. I mean, or you know, and it's so I don't know if that means I don't think all relationships are that, but like when you choose someone where when you're in a relationship with someone where they no longer want to participate in the relationship, you know, like that's when that happens. That's when the real loneliness, I think, really
Mm.
comes in, you know. And you know, when people are willing to work, I mean, I don't know how it works. I have had three pretty significant relationships that I took to the same relationships counselor.
Okay.
He was really good. He kept me in those relationships longer than we should have been in them.
Is
But
that, is that
like,
is that really that good?
he was so good. He was so good, in fact, that I was like, when I'm not in a relationship, can I just come here to work with you on my relationship with myself? And he was like, yeah, same thing, you know.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's like a really interesting question about my relationship status because I feel like I've done so much work to prepare myself for to be a good partner,
Mm.
you know. But um, I need these more years,
Mm.
you know, like I need these, I need I need it to be acceptable to fall in love when I'm 50 and when I'm 60 and because I'm still growing, you
Right.
know, and I'm totally gonna utilize AI to make that happen and get on those NADs and that metformin or, you know, all those. I'm just getting really involved in the longevity conversation. I'm going to move to the blue zones. I'm going to get on a Mediterranean diet and I'm going to fall in love when I'm 101 years old, you know,
Okay.
and then I'll be able to really focus on that, on someone else.
Hey, better late than never, right?
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
be right on time.
Right on time. All right.
I'll have a whole
So
body by then. I mean, I'll be completely reconstructed. Maybe. I mean, I'm just saying, you
yeah, I don't
never,
know.
with
Yeah.
organic materials because of the medical advances. This happens. Sometimes I start talking in like hyperbole and I don't, but I didn't let you know that I started doing that like 5 minutes ago.
That's all right. I do have a question because what's the Jesus song called? I forget.
Jesus is my lover.
Jesus is my lover. I guess. So, again, this song is called Love Addict. You've said every song is probably about love. That's a great title. You've got the candles and the merchandise that kind of go with it that, has sparked some attention. But I guess all this kind of goes
Has
back to
it?
kind of what's
No
that?
one's buying my candles. I thought these candles would sell themselves. They really did. And just for
I
the
don't know.
listeners, I photoshopped Jason Momoa's head onto an even better body because not even Jason Momoa's body is good enough for Jesus. And this isn't even Jesus, this is Jesus Momoa. This is who we're praying to.
Anyway, what's your religious sort of upbringing and background? Was that ever a thing, and is it still a thing?
Yeah, I was born in Huntsville, Alabama,
Mm,
and my dad was always in the woods, and that was his religion, you know,
mm.
was fishing and hunting and being in nature. And my mother was like one of the first yoga teachers in Alabama, and like everybody thought she was everybody thought that she was Satan worship. She's like
Yeah,
doing,
sure.
you know, she's like doing downward dog on my field trips. Um, and and for me, there was like a real political survival thing that sort of
Mm,
caught fire in me where I mean, it was, my brother got locked up when I was 9 and I was really
mm,
involved in the theater in the community. And I had thrown myself into I thought I was going to be an actress from the time I was very small. And, I got very, involved in that. Also, I mean, I think it was just another way of,
yeah,
coping or whatever, just, something the creativity I latched onto then. But in that world, it was like, if I'm going to survive the politics of this place, I'm going to have to become a Baptist, you
right,
know?
right.
And luckily I just got sort of plucked out of that because I think that would have been pretty. If I had stayed on that path, I I don't know who I would be today.
Right.
Like I got my my stepdad got a job transfer to Durango, Colorado, and we just moved out there. And all of a sudden, like I'm in this place where everyone's off the grid, and everybody's religion out there is acid and weed, and I got really like sort of curious about spirituality, but I was trying not to lose focus because I wanted to be an actor, and I scholarship to like a prestigious theater school. And when I got there, I was pretty much like full blown alcoholism,
Mhm.
um, and just really trying to balance that. And so I went to New York. I took theater all the way to New York after I got a DUI And I decided that the government was against creative people and the rules didn't apply to me. If I could just move to New York City where there wasn't any public transit, I would never have to complete the terms of my sentence. So it was like a few years after that, I was like, somebody convinced me that I needed to take care of these warrants I had out for my arrest.
Oh gosh.
And as I did that, I got sober. They required me to go to outpatient. And in New York AA meetings, all the famous people are in the AA meetings and their stories are riveting. And I was just like, man, this is so much more interesting than being in the bar. But like, I didn't want to stop drinking, And so that became like the kind of like looking back on it, like New York really got me sober. I thought that I went there to become a famous actress. And really what it did was it connected me to my larger spiritual quest, because in AA or 12-step program ideology, you choose a power of your own. You choose a power of your own understanding. And I think that's why I don't feel like me saying Jesus is my lover is bad, like because there's so many ways I can go with that song and why I choose to do it or why we chose to write it. Like I wrote it with my friend Jolene. For her, that song was actually about being exalted. I mean, for her, she's writing from like almost the perspective of Mary Magdalene, and for me, I was writing from a place of being frustrated that, that some guy said he was coming back and he never did. And so I just made a joke out of it, like I always do, like, isn't this absurd that I'm pining over him like he's the Messiah? I'm going to stop treating him like he's the Messiah. I'm actually going to hold out for the actual Messiah. Oh, what would that be like? I bet that'd be pretty great. What would it be like to actually be with Jesus? And then that turned into like, why is that so wrong? Why is everybody so uncomfortable with this song? Like it's amazing to me how, people don't care if I drop all those F-bombs and, in Love Addict, but like, they're like, maybe don't play Jesus is my lover at this one. And I'm like, this is no different from what y'all are singing in church. I'm just using the hard R, and that's why white people are uncomfortable. I'm sorry. That was not, I've tried to make that joke. It doesn't work. I have got to work that out. That's not really.
The bit, you got to work the bit out.
I got to work that out. That's one for Kill Tony, that joke.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, that's an interesting explanation of that song. And I think that's again, I'm not a musician. I don't play songs. I don't play instruments or anything. I don't really write songs, but I think that's cool. That's the cool part about it though, is like the songwriting from two different people, but the same topic come from two totally different perspectives, And I think that's why I love music so much. And that's why I love talking to people like you, because on the, there's one thing to read the lyrics on a piece of paper or whatever. And it's another thing to hear it from you. And I would have never sort of put those things together.
Yeah, I know. Like there are definitely people who thought that song was just about me making fun of how people are always singing to Jesus in church as if he is, it is kind of funny, like that. It is sort of a like it. Yeah, I don't know how to, because it's not necessarily sexualized, but like they're, all the little girls are taught from a young age that like Jesus is their real love,
Right.
I mean, it's just like on a primordial level. It's just like sort of hard to untangle that. And then, but why should it be so like, to me, what happened, I in this podcast where she and I say podcast, I invited Mary Ellen to come on. Oh, sorry, Jolene is her artist name. She came on to I have this Married to Monday thing I do where I play something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue every Monday. But usually I just it takes me an hour and a half to play 4 songs because I talk so much. So I had her come on and to talk about the song. And it really was one of the first songs that I had written with someone else where there is so much subjective room for interpretation, because I'm really not it's important to me when I write songs that my listener knows exactly what I mean, that I'm not hiding behind any like, I think that songwriting, I feel a responsibility to my listener to be clear in what I am communicating. I feel like songwriting is a language, and I'm going to be a good communicator, and I'm not trying to waste anybody's time, because I don't like that when I'm like listening to a song and I can tell, that they, they didn't really clarify their meaning there for whatever reason, and they chose to go some like weird poetic level so they could leave it up to my interpretation. And I just like, that just bugs me. I'm just like, say what you mean what you say, and don't make me guess. But with this one, it was just different because like there's still so much it brought up this other thing for me, because this song is just like a living piece of art, because it's like, well, a nun gets married to Jesus, right? And she's supposed to be married to Jesus. And like a nun, why aren't we talking about whether nuns masturbate to Jesus? Why should we not be able to talk about that? Like, we can't even talk about it. Like, there's still this thing where it's just like not okay for a woman to be a sexual being. It's still just like not okay. And I know I'm taking this pretty far, but whatever.
Well, I know that you typically haven't written a lot of songs with other people, but I guess, is this an example of like that process sort of opening your eyes to the, maybe the benefits or the pros of that process? And like, has that inspired you to want to do that more moving forward?
I wrote a lot of songs when I made the Trash Cannon album. I was like, thought I was very unhappy in cutting hair in Durango, Colorado. And my producer of that record, Megan Burt, who made that album, was like, she just basically was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'm too old to be an artist, so I guess I want to be a writer. And she's like, okay, then you need to get a pub deal. So now you're going to write 3 songs a week. I was at that point where it was like, take suggestions or kill myself. You know what I mean? It was like, I was just at that point where I was just willing to do I just needed someone else to tell me what to do. And then I started doing it. So I did 3 co-writes a week, and that was a really, really amazing time because, like, it catapulted me into it actually delivered me to a place where I'm like, you know what? I don't really need to co-write right now. Like, I think this one's going to be better if I just like go ahead and see it through on my own. And then there's times where I'm like, oh, I got this one as far as I can. I'm going to go ahead and take it to the co-write. But the less I do the co-writing, the more afraid I am of the co-writing. There's people that you find that you co-write really well with, and there's other people that maybe you think you're going to write really well with them, and then you get there and you're like, oh no. It's like you had a great date, but the sex was bad.
Or boring.
Yeah. Not what they expected.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else though. Like, if it's like practice, if you play golf or, growing up playing sports, if you don't have the at bats in the practice, and you get up, you're nervous because it's like, okay, I'm in unfamiliar territory. So I would imagine that if you don't do it a lot, it'd be terrifying to actually like get get that muscle memory back.
Yeah, it's just intimacy too. Like it's like, and the doing of it, I mean, I this is the other thing about like creating work and then releasing work. Like, I am not in a writing practice right now.
Yeah.
I am in a digital marketing practice, and I do not shine there. Like, I do not feel connected to anything other than the Wi-Fi.
Right.
And like, that's another thing. It's like when you go into those co-writes, you need to have your like do your scales, like have your chops polished. It really makes the writes better.
Yeah.
The turn of phrase, the twist, the lines, the ones that, the thing about co-writing that's really great is like, there's a really great feeling when you all know you've got the line. Like, you don't know why, you just know it's the line. Everybody knows it's the line, and that's a really satisfying feeling, especially when you're writing with people who are really good.
Yeah.
I had some good co-writes on the record. Chris Gilbuda, Misa and I wrote Dr. Dealer. Misa and I wrote Let It Hurt Some, which is like the first true country song I wrote. I wrote My Own Company with Kylie Connell, who titled her 30 Tigers, her album that came out on 30 Tigers. It was the title track of her record. She got hers out a year before mine. But yeah.
By the way, how do you get a publishing deal when you're a hairdresser in Durango, Colorado?
I don't know. I didn't get one. I
Oh, you
tried
didn't get one.
down. I came down to Nashville and I took all those meetings on the row.
Yeah.
You know, I pitched on the row, but it just felt like there's a lot of carrot dangling going on. And there's a lot of like, you know, Nashville's a hard code to crack because everything people say about it is true. You know,
Right.
like it is about being there and it is about hanging out and it is about showing up. And there's not really anything to, I mean, it's weird because it's like not about, it's much more about a being the thing than it is about like the hustle. But I mean, everybody, people who have pub deals might say that it was very much about the hustle, you know. I just don't have, I think what I have left in me right now is I don't have in me, I want to find out what kind of artist I am, like what kind of artist I really am and I think that means like
Yeah.
without the influence, like I feel like I'm still getting there. This record is good, but the next, what I do with the next record, I'm really gonna, it's, you know, I'm not interested. I could become less and less interested if like people are gonna like it.
That's good. So I was going to ask you, where do you think you are as an artist, and where do you want to be? Like, what that next album? What does that mean to you? Do you have a benchmark in your head? And it could be, you know, it could be based on anything. But like, where do you aspire to be?
That's a total lie. I really want people to like it. Just so you know. But I really appreciate these questions that you're asking. I have enough songs for a new record. I know I have the vision of the new record. I know that I want the new record to have a little more of that insurgence that the Trash Cannon album had. Like I want to sort of lean back into some tempo and get a little gritty. But the songs, I always just feel like the next collection of songs I have are a cut above the previous ones. So for me, I feel like the songwriting is just naturally progresses, and then I just get really excited about what that record would sound like. I love, I love working with Misa. I don't know if he's going to have it in him to do another record with me as soon as I want to. You know, like if I was going to work with another producer, I'd probably want to see if I could get Butch Walker to do it, and then I would have to figure out where am I going to get 50 grand to pay him. You know.
Right.
And so the amount of that's just the thing that's so crazy about it is like how expensive it is to make music at that echelon you want to do it at, and then just how many question marks there are about like, will anyone ever see a return on this investment? You know?
I think you've referred to songs as sort of spells. I guess with this album that just came out, Love Addict. I guess what kind of magic do you want people to feel as they listen to it and as they see you, if they see you live?
Did I say that? Did I say the songs are spells?
Yeah, I think you've said that.
I wonder when I said that, because I just got a book like 3 weeks ago. I got a book on how to be a witch. And I made this. Don't tell anyone because it doesn't work if you tell anybody. But this is my spell jar. I made one for me and I made one for Lily Hyatt because it was her birthday. But like, I just do these things so I don't drink. Like my astro planner, like the zodiac, all that stuff. Like it's just when things just you just need something weird to get into. Like I do actually think more so than making a bunch of dolls out of felt and then sticking pins in them so that I can get people to come to my show. You know, I feel like the songs are way more like legit spells than those, you know, even though those are fun if you can find the time.
Yeah.
But I love that you said, I don't remember if I said that songs are spells, but I really do like that. Yeah, because I would like to start writing more intentionally in terms of like processing things that maybe I do not want or have not wanted or have been hard, and actually writing about the things that I am grateful for, you
Oh,
know.
wow. Okay.
And my inmates taught me that. I
Mm.
call them my
What?
inmates.
Yeah.
I am not their jailer, but
Yeah. Yeah.
working
Well, I was
with
going to
them.
ask you about that. You mentioned the challenge with your brother being locked up when you were 9, and you're part of this great program called Beyond Bars, which I think you go into prisons and teach songwriting and spend time with inmates, which you just alluded to. I guess why that, and was it directly or indirectly related to your brother and his situation?
Yeah. My brother has been incarcerated since he was 17, and now he's going to be 52 in June.
Hmm.
And I don't think, my brother was like my whole world. Like I idolized him. He was, it's a tragedy. Like what has happened. I still don't think I can really handle it. You
Hmm.
know, like I think if any of us really, I'm talking about my mom, my family members, like let us feel ourselves feel the gravity of it, instead of just like constantly like trying to find ways to, you know, either, yeah, get distracted by your own life, advocate, call senators, create programs, all that helps. But like, I think it's really necessary, because if you really felt the pain of the loss of this and the implication of, his life is behind him now,
Yeah, that's so sad.
and like, um, he has no disciplinary infractions in 35 years. Kay Ivey keeps building these new supermax prisons and putting her name on them with pride. And then, they're not the parole, like the parole in Alabama it went from 48%, it plummeted to 8%. And now it's like slowly climbing back up.
Hmm.
And his first opportunity after the Supreme Court changed the law, they said juvenile life without parole is unconstitutional back in Miller versus Alabama in 2012. Alabama said no. Supreme Court said yes, it is. Alabama said, okay, but it's not retroactive.
Oh
Supreme
my
Court
gosh.
said, try again. Alabama said, okay, they can have parole in 40 years. Alabama said, try again. They said, okay, have parole in 30 years. Well, by that time, my brother had been in 29 years. And then when he comes up for parole, it's 2020. We don't get to go to a
Hmm.
physical hearing. The hearing happens,
Hmm.
online. And I don't think they're even reading the parole packages, because like the amount of support that we have are people, former chaplains, wardens advocating for him. Like Justice Kennedy says, you have to prove that a child is incorrigible. Well, if he is not the example of what that would be, him and a select few others who also have no disciplinary infractions, then what would be the example? But they just are letting out sort of like misdemeanor drug offenders. They are giving them $10 for every year that they've been in prison, and a bus ticket back to the county where they were sentenced. And they
Wow.
don't have resources, and they reoffend, and it keeps those beds full. And the greater the prison population, the more federal funding. So like you have to follow the money, because there's a lot of private contracting going on in which, people are just too many people are getting paid,
Yeah.
to keep these beds full.
The music that you create, obviously, it touches on a lot of subjects, like addiction and heartbreak and everything. But do you think, even though a song may be about some dude, in room 309, at a hotel or whatever, do you think it all comes back to this with your brother and sort of the trauma?
That one definitely not. That one goes back to
Well, that
Sean
one,
Camp,
yeah, that one on. But
because I
just
wrote
the
that song with Sean Camp, and that song is about Sean Camp, and and I haven't told anyone that song is about Sean Camp, and I didn't promote it, and I've just decided that just now in this moment that I'm going to tell you that song's about Sean Camp. It has nothing. It doesn't go back to my brother at all.
all right. Well, what I mean, though, like of all these songs that there's a lot of stuff going on in your life that again, you mentioned it earlier, like you say it like it is, and you don't like the allegory of songwriting sometimes. Do you think it comes back to this, like this, because it happened when you were 9? Like, do you think it's had that big of an impact?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a big thread of injustice, you know, and that like, yeah, I mean, I think I developed a belief around this time that this is happening, that I don't have power. Um, it's the unfathomable, you know, it's the unthinkable. And I do think that I have like related to the world a lot as if the world were against me.
Mm.
And, it's been hard to trust for sure. And I'm definitely very good at the push pull thing, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but, and I know we probably have to wrap up, but like the, the beautiful thing is that in spite of that, you know, so I wrote this song called Waiting, which is the last song on the album. And it's also on the EP that I put out last year, but I put it on the record in demo form, guitar, vocal demo. And, Misa play guitar. And, I, when I told my brother I was going to write that song, he was like, well, don't make it about me getting out. Make it about the girl that he's been in love with since he was 15, high school sweetheart. And this is their story. It's like an autobiographical tale up until the third verse when I make a point, right? So like, Jennifer Steele heard that song at the 38 Songwriters Festival, and she had started the art program at Walton CI at the, you know, they were taking art into the prison. She asked me if I wanted to do the prison program. So I developed a 2-week songwriting program, and I workshopped it in there by myself 3 times. Then Phoebe Hunt came down and I taught her. Then 4 more songwriters came down and we taught them the program. And now they have gone back in pairs to teach the program again. I'll go back in August, hopefully do another teacher training in October. So the point is like that, that program, the songs I've been seeing come out of that program are, you might never hear these songs, and they're incredible. And they're writing about some of the hardest shit you can imagine, because I don't censor them, but I do it in a way. We're not therapists. We teach from the experience of our songwriting. And I definitely like have tried to develop the program that it can police itself that way. But so far, you know, they're being honest with each other about their childhood trauma, you know, and, a lot of things that would be taboo, especially in a men's prison, you know, are coming to light. And that's like, it's amazing to see that, because I personally don't believe that healing can take place without it. You know, as long as like things remain suppressed, it's just going to continue. Like we were talking about earlier, you know, that's when you really got to worry about it, you know? So, but I also don't think that, I do believe that healing happens incrementally and over time. And this is just like sort of the beginning of that, of having a different experience. Hopefully what I'd really like to do is create like a foundation of sorts where these songs that they write, could be recorded in a professional setting if when they get out they're able to like hold down a job and stay in recovery for 6 months. I'd like for there to be something like that, because there's just too many other factors working against them to get them to go back inside. There's just way too, it's just really heartbreaking. So I don't remember what your question was, but
Well, I was just gonna. So let's tie that back. I mean, that's amazing that you're able to work with people that no one really cares about, you know, anymore, right? They're just kind of locked up. But I guess back to that song, "Waiting." So is that, you mentioned your brother and his crush and love for, you know, since he was 15. Is that perspective of her waiting for him to come out, or you waiting for your brother to get out of jail, or like what does the waiting refer to?
well, I use it as a songwriting example in there too, about how to change the meaning of a chorus. Because in the first verse, like the chorus is waiting until things are less complicated. Waiting, what else would you do for an angel? So in the first verse, he's waiting for waiting for her to get out of her relationship with the asshole she's dating, which is what I said on the radio. Sorry, WMOT.
Yeah.
But she said, you know, like in that sense, waiting, what else would you do for an angel sort of refers to this high school teen angel sort of a romance. Then the second verse, when he gets locked up, now he's locked up. And so it's like waiting until things are less complicated, because now I'm in prison. You know, waiting, what else would you do for an angel? Because she's the only one who's stuck by him.
Right.
And then in the bridge, the letters stop coming, the visits stop coming. And then the very last verse, he takes the $10 that he gets from getting out of prison and goes and buys some cheap flowers to put on her grave because he doesn't have anywhere else to go. So, in that point, how could it possibly be less complicated now that he's out, but she's not on the planet anymore? Now she's in heaven. And so, at that point, waiting, what else would you do for an angel becomes about angel in the literal sense. So, it's sort of like, a songwriting device where the words don't change, but the meaning gets stronger every time. And I don't know. It's one of the only songs I ever really effectively did it.
That's incredible. Thanks for sharing.
Sure. Now maybe you can go listen to it. Send it to 10 friends.
Yeah, no, it's good. All right. So yeah, just in the spirit of wrapping up, I guess you're on tour. What can we expect the rest of this year from you? And then I asked this for everybody. So there's a 2-part question. There's that, which is kind of, the normal question. Question I've really been waiting to ask you is this whole thing I've started around this podcast is all based on, it's inspired by Ted Lasso and to emphasize, curiosity. And I think you embody curiosity probably more than anyone I've talked to, just in how you've approached everything. And I think in this album, you dug deep into classic country music for the first time as part of the process with Misa, and so you just embody curiosity in terms of how you live. The Astro Plan book, the witchcraft book, like you're definitely curious about a lot of things. But I guess at this point in your life, as an artist or as a woman, what are you most curious about?
Oh, man. I hope I ask people these good questions. I like questions I don't already know the answer to, I think that I'm curious about how to enjoy the artistic life. How do I enjoy it? I do want to figure out, can I become good at comedy? If it's not just like, can I actually craft this into something where it doesn't require me just sort of like everyone being on the edge of their seat to see if I'm going to be able to talk myself out of the mess I made, which is like how it works now. But I want to find out if, yeah, and I think it's the other thing about like, I am really curious to see what kind of artist I am, like if I can, the less and less that I can care about how it's going to be received, or whether or not my survival depends on it. Like, what would I do? Are my closest friends going to love it? Is Misa going to approve of it? He didn't like any of my merch. Like, because I think he likes my Jesus candles. But and then there's the larger curiosity, I think, is like, I've been making this joke in my meetings that I anonymously go to, that like I've been getting myself to pray. I did get a book on witch spells to get myself to pray. You know what I mean? I just like make a spell out of it. I have constantly had to do that. That's why I make this 2-week songwriting program. Like, that's how I trick myself into healing. That's how I get myself to do squats, like I have to pretend that I have to put on sparkly headband, then I can do them, but, the curiosity part, I think, is like, can I come into more of a relationship with the greater power to like do this thing? Can I make it more about a larger purpose and less about me? Can I find where the balance is in that, where the personal fulfillment actually lines up with the greater good too? And yeah, my questions are more about sort of like, my curiosity at least is becoming more about things that I think really matter.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I'm also really curious as to like, how do you get Ozempic? But
You don't need Ozempic. You're good.
Yeah, but if I had it, just imagine all the donuts I could have if I
No. All right. Well, that's
don't
great.
want.
Well, yeah. And just real quick, the rest of the year, is it the tour? Is it other things that we could look forward to?
I'm definitely doing some touring this year. I'm gonna try to be doing more. I'm gonna try to play more with the band in Nashville because I can't. That's really the only time I can't play with the band because they're, you have to have a lot of money to take that band places.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm gonna be playing more in Nashville. I'm gonna go back down to Walton County and write with the inmates some more. And there is one other thing that you felt, just to take this back to where we started. On June 7th, Trigger from Saving Country Music approached me about this like maybe a year and a half ago after I was on Kill Tony. And we both believe in this idea, but it could be a horrible idea. In fact, it probably is. But there's this whole thing that's so annoying in the music industry where it's like hit songs are prioritized over good songs. I go to these film and TV sync licensing conferences and things, and like I endure a lot of that. Like, oh, we're just going to listen to like the art. It's kind of, I think you have to get to a pretty high level where the art kind of is synonymous. Like you have to work through so many layers of people having all these sanctions on like what it should be. And there's just so much bad, in my opinion, it's just bad and sort of soulless music out there that like makes money. And then people are just trying to like recreate that. And no one's really digging in. And so he was like, we need a show that's basically Kill Tony for songs, where we roast the bad songs. And so we're going to do that. And we have our first Forerunner episode on June 7th at Jolton Hardware. And right now it's like, I mean, it's going to have some serious comedic elements to it. Like you cannot take that too seriously, but like, we're going to find out if anybody wants to come get their song roasted.
Ooh, yeah.
But, if you have a good song, I mean, that's the thing. It's not just going to be roasted for the sake of roasting. Like, if you have a good song. And I think that's the hard thing, too, about doing it in places. Like, really, this needs to happen down on Broadway where songs are really bad.
Yeah.
Unless
that's actually, I think it's a great idea. So, it'll come down to the execution and the personalities and the people being able to laugh at themselves and take feedback and without completely losing their mind. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, because Kill Tony is a relatively misogynist environment, but like they're really putting comics on their path, and like me, I am like a liberal person, but I was also pretty relieved to be able to have a space where I could say I wasn't going to ruin my life for trying a joke, and I mean, I could have. I definitely had I got some death threats after I was on that show.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Yeah, it was fine. I was just like, I was like, oh, I needed this to happen so that I know that I really am ready for this, because honestly, I could care less. But that's the thing, I think, is that like, our songwriters are pretty sensitive. Comics are the worst, so I don't know how it translates yet. We'll see. I think it is going to require more reverence, but we'll find out. Yeah. You should come.
It's worth a shot. It's awesome. All right. Well, Kayla, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thanks so much for your time and good luck traveling and all the things this year.
Thanks, Jason. It was great to talk to you. I really appreciate your questions.
That's awesome. Yeah, appreciate you.